Welcome back to the Resilient Man podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Kieron, someone who's lived through loss, anxiety, and internal battles. Kieron opens up about battling anxiety from a young age and the journey to self-acceptance, losing his best friend to suicide and the grief that followed, finding healing and purpose through hiking, solo travel, and rediscovering what truly makes him happy, and how he's learned to stop living by other people's expectations and start building a life on his own terms. If you've ever questioned whether you are enough, this conversation will remind you that you are, and that the small steps can lead to powerful transformation. Let's dive in. Kieron, welcome to the Resilient Man podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
Not a problem. I'm really pleased that you've come on today, and I'm really looking forward to the types of things that we're going to be discussing about, because I think it's really important. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting stuck in. Opening question: what are the 2 to 3 key moments of adversity or struggles that you've had to overcome to be the person you are today?
I would say for me, quite a lot of it growing up was through anxiety I had to overcome and depressive episodes. So for me, the key moments where it hit me quite bad was the loss of my grandparents, uh, the loss of my best friend to suicide, and pretty much my own internal thoughts.
Okay. So which one of those events came up first for you, if we was going to try and do this chronologically?
That would probably be my internal thoughts was what something what happened first.
Okay. And can you unpack that a little bit as to what that looks like?
Yeah, so from an early age, I've always been quite anxious, quite nervous about things, and pretty much if I've not been good at something, I've always been a like a self-attack sort of thing. So it was more like if I can't do it, I'm useless. You might as well give up. You might as well not be here, and all that is what follows on from that thinking. Um, but it's always been a struggle up until like the last few years or so, last couple, where I've started to actually do things and obviously realize that I'm not going to be good at everything all the time, and that's perfectly okay.
Was there like a specific moment that you remember when you first started getting these thoughts?
I think it's more growing up, like at school, because I was always quite a lot bigger than everyone else as a child. So when you're trying to do like sport things and you're trying to play football and you're trying to do everything, it's like I'm not as quick as everybody else, or I'm not as this. And then you start questioning yourself a lot more. And I think that's where it initially started, is just self-comparison.
So you mentioned the realization moment that you had a couple of years ago in terms of it's okay not to be perfect at everything. How did that realization moment come about?
It came after my last breakup. I sort of had like is it an epiphany, the word?
Yep.
Where I sat with myself for a while and I was like trying to do things, but when I first started hiking, started hiking again after the breakup, I was very unfit. I was like 5 stone heavier than what I am now, and everything was a struggle. So like inclines was bad, and pretty much walking flat in general was pretty bad. So I sort of realized that you're going to get better over time. So the more you do it, the more you'll progress. And obviously, the more I did it, the fitter I got, the better I got, the quicker I could do things, and the everything else just got a little bit easier.
So what was the motivation for you to then do that improvement and then put the work in to get better at walking and hiking?
I think that's just because, well, since we left college, I started to get into fitness, and I enjoyed the fitness and the mental break it gave me from everything else. So I think getting back into that is also another thing where it's pushed me to do it a bit more. is to improve my mental health that way, because I found that by doing it, by um, keeping fit, it keeps my mental health pretty like straight. There's no ups and downs. It just keeps it on a flat level.
Yeah, and I think I can relate to that as well in terms of my mental health. I can tell like if I've not trained for a while or not been to the gym, then I get like in this funk, this like the lethargic funk sat on the sofa, not really wanting to move. And yeah, it's that point where I was like, right, you need to get yourself outside. And I think that kind of like emphasized itself like through lockdown. When we had all those restrictions,
Yeah.
and it was about dragging yourself out of the house, getting that fresh air, and getting moving. And I feel like that's when I really noticed the benefit from it. So, in terms of, so if there are other people listening to this with those same, like we call them limiting beliefs, those negative thoughts of you're not good enough, what would your advice be to those people?
That you are good enough. You're not going to be perfect at everything, but you can try something and at least realize that it's not for you or you're not for it. And that is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with, like, in most cases, some people can't do DIY and some people can. It's not everyone's game. Like we were saying, I'm not an editor for some of my videos, what I put out, but some people are really good at it, but I give it a go. You know what I mean? I'm never going to be perfect at it, I don't think, but with practice comes progression. So if you want to give it a try or it's something you do enjoy and you're not good at it, just keep giving it a go.
I feel like that fear of failure, the fear of not being perfect, often like holds people back. I know from myself, it's held me back in terms of showing up on social media as a coach, especially in the early days. The amount of recordings I would do before actually posting a video would be like at least 10 probably
Yeah, yeah.
before I felt happy and comfortable. And I think and with this podcast as well, this is something new to me. This is something I'm learning. It's not something I've done before. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I think part of it is the reality of you'll never be perfect. Um, so you need to kind of just accept that a little bit, and then just focus on that first step and making that first step, as you said, and then taking it from there.
Yeah, I think in most cases, the idea of failing is seen a bad thing, and it's really not. Because I think growing up, especially with our age, you are told, "Oh, you've got to win, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do whatever." But in terms of failing, you can only learn from a failure. If you try something and you fail, you can learn and improve next time. There's no, "Oh, you failed, give it up," or never do it again. It's more pick it back up and see how you go next time. Learn from the mistakes you've made, any issues you had, and then, like I say, just keep progressing.
And just on the back of that, I think a lot of times we are, from the conversations I've had, holding ourselves back from those failures. So if we failed in the past, we kind of carry that around with us sometimes. So I don't know if there was a key defining moment for you in terms of what you would class as failure.
Um, yeah, back to the breakup. I felt like a failure after that because we've been together for about 3.5 years at that point, and then I just turned 30, and then everyone tells you at 30 you need to be this or you need to be that and everything else. So I felt like I'd failed in life because I was 30 and newly single. And yeah, so that's an issue for me. I thought I failed at life and was pretty much in a point where I was thinking, oh, I might as well give up because I'm 30 and my life's over, as everyone made out. And in reality, it isn't. Well, for me, it's been the best thing that's happened to me. And I don't mean that with any disrespect to her either. Yeah, my life's massively changed round since then.
I think you've touched on something there, which is like the social pressures or the norms to be married, have kids, have a
Yeah,
house,
yeah,
do
definitely.
things the right way.
But there is no right way. It's what life is, what it is to you. There is no right or wrong way. Like for me, a slower way of living and having less makes me more happy than what I thought I wanted from life in terms of a bigger house and loads of money in the bank. But that my way of wanting to live isn't the way that, say, you might want to live. And I think getting to the concept of, or the realization of where you are and what you want actually, instead of living to the norms, what you're made to believe, will make you a lot happier as a person as well.
100%. I was listening to something the other day, and it was talking about how when we grow up, we get all these preconceived ideas and almost a blueprint of what we should do when, and that's how these expectations come to mount. And how when we don't meet those expectations, say you're living your life currently, but your expectation would you be doing something different by now, or further ahead, or a better job, or a better relationship, or a better car, and how you're constantly chasing these expectations, and then the detriment that that can have to your own mental well-being and mental health as well.
Yeah, because you're always chasing something what isn't perfect. And you can set milestones for yourself, don't get me wrong, if they're what you want to achieve. And if having a brand new £100,000 car what makes you happy and you feel like you will be happy getting that, then by all means go for that. But for me, I thought getting the latest car and the latest phone and everything like that would make me happy, and I wouldn't be happy until that point. And then the moment I got it, I realized it didn't. So I was chasing the perfect idea of someone else rather than the perfect idea for me. And in the last year and a half, I've chased what's perfect to me. So I've always wanted to buy a van since I was about 19 and convert one and go traveling. And I never did it because of relationships and saving for houses and everything else. And then when I became single again, I thought, well, it's now or never. If I do it now and I don't enjoy it, I can always get my money back. But I did it, and it's the best thing I've ever done.
Fair play for like seizing that opportunity, because I imagine there was possibly some hesitation in doing that and taking that step, because it's a bit of a risk maybe. Um, but if that was your dream, then kudos to you for doing that. And I've seen all your socials. I see how much you enjoy being outside, hiking, cooking, and all that. So it looks really good. Um, just going back a little bit in terms of that expectation, just to uncover it a little bit more, I think the sad reality is that a lot of the time we're putting off our happiness on getting something like a material thing and then waiting to feel happy. And what I like about what you were just mentioning is you didn't get it there. So you've seen the expectations, you didn't get it there. So you said, okay, what do I want? Well, I've always wanted a van. I've always enjoyed hiking. Let's try that. And then you found your happiness that way.
Yeah, most definitely. See, I've always been more of an outside person anyway. But growing up, I've always been hiking, walking, and where I live, I'm pretty lucky that it's surrounded by fields. So I used to go in them as a kid. Like I said, after the breakup and the realization of what do I need to truly make me happy, and it's pretty much as you said, get a van and travel and see things, climb mountains. That's pretty much as simple as it gets to make me happy. There's really not much more, but I can't sit here and think of anything else that would give me the same level of happiness that that does.
If someone was searching for that happiness, is there any advice you could give to someone to help them find their happiness, or what then makes them happy?
I think it's just sitting down and having a word with yourself is pretty much the only way. You've just got to realize what does make you happy. I mean, it was something I sat down for a few months and was like, oh, what do I need to do? Because I went through a period where I was back to the like bad thoughts in my head and not wanting to be here. And I was like, well, you need to change that and find something what makes you happy. And I just reverted back to basically what made me happy as a child, because they are your happiest times. And yeah, just realised that being outside and experiencing new things is what made me happy.
I really like that because as a kid, there's no expectations. You don't really know about all these preconceived things of what you should and shouldn't do. You're free, aren't you? Almost. That's a really good tip for people.
Yeah, and I think that I think, in my opinion, growing up is, in a way, as I say, in a trap, because you're told to be a certain way and be more of an adult, when I feel in reality you should be keeping more of the childish features what make you happy, because I feel like that is what brings on more depressive episodes and anxieties, because you're trying to reach a level where you as a child probably wouldn't be happy. So
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So that's your own internal thoughts. So then you mentioned two other elements, which I'd just like to discuss a little bit further. So there's your grandparents, and then there's your best friend. Did your grandparents pass first?
yeah, my grandparents passed first, yeah.
Okay. So do you want to talk about a little bit about your relationship with your grandparents?
My relationship with them was good. Spent pretty much every Friday and all weekend there as a child up until I was about 15 or 16. So yeah, there was pretty much, from what I remember, all the best moments of my childhood going to my grandparents. I mean, they only lived down the road from me, so they wasn't really very far away. But yeah, going there, and it's just like the happiest memories that I've got, really.
And so what was the impact of them passing?
Well, we lost them both within like a 6 month period. So my grandma died first, and I was very close to her, and that impact was pretty sad. I mean, it was pretty sad for the whole family as well. But for me, it was a real struggle to get over. Like, I'd lost a grandparent on my dad's side a few years before, but it didn't really hit me as bad. I'm not really sure as to why that is, but when I lost my mum's mum, that one really did. And then 6 months later, we lost my granddad, and then that's when pretty much all the depressive episodes started, because I felt like all my happiness had gone with them not being here anymore.
What did that look like? So what did life look like after they'd then passed for you?
I pretty much didn't do anything. I sat in my room, never really left my room, and I pretty much just went into a hole. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to see anybody, and even the people in my household, like my mum, my dad, my sister, I wouldn't talk to them. I'd just be in my room, like 24/7, 365 days a year.
So how did you go from that to then picking yourself up and going out hiking and doing everything that you're doing now?
Again, with living quite close to the fields and everything, we had a dog, and I just decided one day to get outside, because I used to spend all the summer days inside, and I thought instead of wasting it, I'll go out and just walk around the field, because it's a pretty short route. But at this point, I was struggling quite bad with anxiety, so it used to take me quite a long time to prepare myself to leave. So it would be like a couple of hours at least before I could leave the house and take the dog a walk. But then in the moments where we was out, that's when I sort of felt a little bit happier.
So those were the moments that you felt a little bit happier. And what made it, or did it get easier over time to then start venturing out when you realised those were the moments where you was happy?
Not, not really, no. See, back to the anxiety type thing, that stopped me from doing quite a lot of things throughout my 20s until I was probably about 24. So my grandparents died at night when I was 19, and so in that 5 year period, I wouldn't leave the house unless I was walking the dog. It would take me a good 2.5 hours to prepare myself to go to the shop, which is 5 minutes down the road from me. That's how bad my anxiety was. So until I got to like 23, maybe 24, is when things got a little bit easier, and that's through an ex-girlfriend. She enjoyed hiking, and we went together, and things were a lot better for me, anyway, personally.
So I was just going. My follow-on question was, how do you manage that anxiety?
Now I just don't worry about things anymore. I I used to worry so much about what other people thought of me, or if I was walking by, what I might be wearing, or everything else what comes with those. That's what stopped me from doing a lot of things. And now, in the most respectful way, I genuinely do not care what anyone thinks. I just go about my business and, yeah, just do what I want to do. Otherwise, I'll be missing out on a lot of things.
What are the key steps, do you think, from getting from where you were with the anxiety to where you are now, which is, I'd say, living free and not living by anyone else's judgment?
It was just in the moments where I was sat thinking about my life, I thought, well, why do I care so much about what other people think? Because I was seeing like other people doing what they want to do, and they didn't seem to. And I just thought, if I go out and just try it, then I might enjoy it. And I actually did. Like solo traveling didn't really happen until last year, but my first solo travel out, I was absolutely terrified. I was sweating, nervous, everything. And then after I come back to the hotel I was staying at, I was fine. And then I started, even that same day, I went out for a meal by myself, and I've never done that in 30 years. It's just progressed from there. It's just like, I just go, and because everything's going to be all right, there's nothing what's going to be an issue.
You mentioned the solo traveling. What sparked that? Where did that come from?
It's just the missing out. I thought to myself, because my best friends have children and partners now, wives, so their free time is pretty much spent with those. And again, becoming single, I was like, well, if I don't start doing things, then I'm basically just missing out on my life. I'm missing out on all the things that I want to see and want to do. And I just thought, why not go for it? Because if I fail, I fail. If I don't like it, I don't like it. I can go back and try and find friends who might like it. But at that point in my life, I didn't really know anybody who was like into hiking or doing whatever. And I don't think at that point I would have like wanted is probably the wrong word. I would have probably been too anxious to be in a social situation with someone else. Whereas like now, I go a lot more like joining other people on group hikes, or I go with people who I've met through socials, and yeah, there's just no anxiety there for me anymore.
I don't know if it's the same for you, but what I found was, after recording one of my first coaching videos and putting it out to the world, which I was really anxious about because I thought they're going to think, who's this person trying to coach people, trying to help people? Who do they think he is? And I posted it, and no one really saw it. I think I got 1 or 2 likes on it, my initial post. And I actually found it quite liberating, because then that was confirmation that actually nobody cares what you're doing. People are too consumed in their own lives to really care about exactly what you're doing, what you're wearing. And yeah, did you get that same liberation feeling, or was it different for you?
Yeah, 100%. Like we started posting, and some people, when I first started posting, had something to say, or they'd make like little comments about it. But the more I've done it, they don't speak about it anymore. They don't bring it up. I don't even think they even like my things anymore, because I feel like people want you to fail in the beginning, and they don't want to see you do well. And then when you start doing well, it's like the common saying, nobody asks you how until you start succeeding. So until things start snowballing into like likes, if you want, or comments, whatever, it nobody really wants to know.
Just you mentioning that, that was another trap I fell on in social media. I was basing my success on how many likes I got. And then I was almost, like we said earlier, putting my happiness on that.
Yeah.
I'm receiving that recognition or whatever I was after. And then it was only when I, again, sat down with myself, I was like, why does it matter? Like, I'm not doing this for likes. The main purpose of my work is for impact and for helping people. And what's funny is people were talking to me about the stuff I was posting, and in my back of my head, I'm like, why aren't you liking it? Why aren't you commenting on it? So people are aware of what you're doing, even if you don't get those likes or those satisfaction that way. So yeah, that was an interesting thing for me to say. Like, what's important to me? The importance is impact and posting and trying to make a difference, not the likes.
Yeah, I feel like if you are posting content, no matter what it is, if you're just doing it, like for me, I just do it for my walks. For you, it's this podcast and helping other people. And obviously some of my stuff is alongside like mental health and helping other people. But I don't focus on the likes. I post content what I want to post and what I think is good. And at the end of the day, you're going to attract an audience that relates to what you're posting. So it doesn't really matter, really, because your traction will just get built on the more you post. I mean, for me, obviously, mine's just about hiking, scenery, whatever else, mental health, being happy, being the best version of yourself. And if it reaches the right audience, which a couple of my videos have, and then you get certain messages through from people saying like, well, your videos I've been watching, they've really helped me at this point. I've been going through X, Y, Z. And then that gives you the little like confirmation that the stuff you are doing and the content you want to put out is actually working.
100%. And it's such a nice and almost like fulfilling thing to get those messages to say that it has helped someone in some roundabout way. And yeah, if you needed a motivation boost, then that's it.
Yeah.
So in terms of your story, then, and those three key moments, the next one is about the loss of your friend.
Yeah.
So did you say that happened 5 years ago?
That would be 5 years ago, in about a week's time. So yeah, that's a big one. Um, Something I still haven't dealt with properly, more so for the fact of not wanting to accept what's happened.
Did it come as a surprise to you?
Yeah, it came to a surprise for pretty much everybody, even his fiance that he lived with. Yeah, so it pretty much came out of the blue, and obviously at the time it was during COVID. You was limited on seeing people as well. You couldn't be near people and everything else. Even though obviously we've got the group chat and talking there, we're not the type of friendship group to message each other every day. It's more like, oh, catch up at this point and we'll do this. And then the moment you're together, it's like you've never been apart. That's the sort of friendship group we are.
Yeah. So you didn't have any, I guess you didn't necessarily see him that much if it was during COVID, so you didn't really notice any changes in how he was with you.
No real changes. All the messages in the group chat are pretty much messages of what he would send anyway. So obviously through reading messages, you can't really grasp what's going off because you can write it in the same way you do everything else, and everyone will assume that you're all right.
So that happens, and so how does this affect you? Is it a similar impact to when you lost your grandparents, or is this different?
It was similar, but it hit me on a bigger scale because obviously the loss comes as a shock. When you lose someone to suicide, it's a bit different to losing somebody who is older or ill. Obviously, it comes as a shock in most cases, and in our case, we also was left with no reason as to why. When you are put in that position, especially for me, because I'm the oldest of the group, so I'm more like the big brother, and I check in with everybody. I feel like I should have noticed more, and it's putting a pressure on yourself of being more you start giving yourself questions of, should I have done this more? Should I have done that? Should I have checked in? Should I have rang him, texted him, or whatever else? So it puts you in a deeper pit, and obviously you're trying to find reasoning to a question that you're never going to get an answer to.
Do you still feel that way?
Sometimes I still feel like I could have done more. Sometimes you sit and think about if there was any messages you misread, or whether you could have seen a sign from, or even like the last time that we seen him alive, which was a few months prior, was there any signs then? And you're always going to come to the conclusion of what you want to believe, in that there wasn't, or you never noticed anything.
So, how do you? I know it's a very difficult thing. I mean, if I'm just trying to, I can't necessarily relate to it because I've not been through that experience. But how do you move forward? How do you? How do you? How are you able to like function and just process that?
For a long while, I didn't. I just was existing. I wasn't really dealing with anything. As time's gone on, you sort of think to yourself, like the type of person he was, it very much helped everybody through anything. So I see it as, I don't think he would have left if he didn't think we could handle it. And that's the bit of, that's more like a comfort to me sort of thought. 'Cause obviously, we're never going to get a reason why, but I just think from the type of person he is, he wouldn't have done what he did if he didn't think we would be all right about it.
I think that's a really good and a really nice perspective, especially in terms of giving you that comfort. Because often when something awful happens like that, we can just always think of the negative side of things and then end up in that like negative spiral. So I think that's a really good perspective that you've got on that. In terms of your friendship group, have you? It's been a little. I know it's been a while now, but have you discussed this? Do you do anything differently now, or how has that impacted the friendship group?
The friendship group is still pretty much as it was. There's no real changes. We still don't talk to each other every day, and it's still pretty much the same. I mean, we are the type of friendship group, if something happens, good, bad, whatever, we'll message. Uh, I'm the type of person in the group who will send messages to say that I love them all the time, as I did with my friend who passed. And nothing's really changed in terms of the friendship group, apart from the obvious feeling that you sit there and think, like with my friends having children now, you think it should really be here to see us all grow old and where we've got to in this moment in time.
As a friendship group, did you discuss how you're feeling after the loss of your friend?
Yeah, so in the beginning it was a lot more of messages to see how everybody is, and you see how everyone's going on every day so often, but you just check in, don't you? You don't, and if, like you say, if I say, oh, I'm all right, you're just going to take it on face value that I'm all right. You're not going to dig if nothing's like obvious.
The only reason why I was mentioning that is because I saw a statistic, I think it was towards the end of last year, that said those who are bereaved by suicide are 20% more likely to commit suicide.
Yeah, I would say that's true. For me, I can't really speak on the other two guys, but for me, I probably got to a point where I was thinking that it to deal with like the emotional pain, the only way to really go about it is to not be here, because it impacted me quite a lot. Like, um, like I've never been the same person. There's always been there's part of me what's not here anymore, and it's never going to come back. I know that, but you're sort of burdened with a sadness. So for a long while, it took a lot of enjoyment of life from me, losing my best friend. But obviously, as time's gone on, it's more got a little bit easier, and you start to enjoy things a little bit more. And it's sort of like when it happened, life went black and white, and then now you're starting to get a little bit of colour back in.
What would your advice be to someone grieving over a similar circumstance?
It's to let yourself grieve. I was quite lucky because during that time it was COVID and I got furloughed, so I had time to think about things. Like I think it was about 8, 9 months off work after it happened, so I pretty much had time to process the whole situation instead of being forced to go back to work and shut all your emotions out for 8 hours and then having to deal with it in that sort of time. I dealt with it pretty much all day, every day. I think after I think I cried every day for about a month at least, and yeah, I just got time to deal with it. So I feel like to overcome it, you've just got to accept the grief, basically.
And then, is it in terms of getting to where you are now? Is there any other steps, or is it just primarily just kind of working through that grief in your own time and then gradually feeling a little bit better?
I feel like you've just got to work through it. It's not, no type of grief is good or easy. I feel like you've just got to work your way through it and realize that it's just one bad day, and a bad day will pass, and then in a few months' time, it'll be less of a bad day, and things will start to improve from that point.
If there's someone listening who's in that like awful headspace and thinking about those types of things, what would be your advice to them?
My advice would be to talk to somebody. Even like for me, it's quite odd because I'm the type of person to not talk. I'll shut off. So talking massively helped me in the last year and a half, and being more open with my emotions and how I'm feeling. Because obviously from a young age, you're told basically bottle it up, be a man, don't cry, don't all this. When in reality, letting your emotions be and come to the surface isn't a bad thing. To sit there and actually let them out and not bottle them up is a lot better, and it does make things a lot easier. And don't get me wrong, like crying in front of people is probably the worst thing, but like it's needed. And if you don't talk to somebody, all you're really doing is making everything else a million times worse.
I know when, and you can tell me if this is kind of relatable or not, but with my anxiety, I felt like I was holding on to it, and then there was a couple of occasions I'd just go into work and cry. And I think it's because I was bottling everything up and trying so hard to keep on at this facade that I was okay. It was just destroying me internally, and then I just kept having these almost like emotional breakdowns of just crying. Would you say that's kind of similar?
Yeah, it's similar. Like anxiety and depression is sort of similar in most ways, because you don't feel like you can talk about it, like anxious about situations. I get anxious about social situations, but I never spoke about. Like big groups of people is not a vibe that I want to be on. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And like not talking about it and keep being forced into these situations don't make things any better. So like if you're uncomfortable or you're upset, not talking about it is just making things a lot worse for you and probably everyone else around you, because you become the type of person who you're not. Like for me, if when I used to be like properly depressed, my reaction was anger. So I'd, don't know, say something I don't mean, scream, shout, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, that's not who I am. It was a reaction of trying not to let other people in and trying to not let other people see that I'm actually not okay.
So if you were in that position now, then that you weren't okay, who would you talk to? Who would you reach out to?
I'd go to my best mates, my mum, my dad, my sister, people who I'm close to, because it's not. I realise now it's a safe place to open up, to say how you feel instead of bottling it up. Like my parents are great, but they never really understood the whole anxiety and depression thing because that's the age they are. It wasn't a thing, shall we say, back in their day. So they never really understood it, but nowadays they understand it a lot more because obviously I've been dealing with it for all my life, but never really spoke about it. So obviously having a safe space to talk to somebody will help massively. It helps me. Like I know for a fact now I could message my best mates to say I was struggling, or like for a moment last year I went on a night out and I came back on the train and I was crying, and I rang my best mate and he drove all the way from Derby to Alfreton to pick me up because he knew I wasn't all right. But it's just having that knowing you can talk to somebody.
I think from what you're saying there and from my own experiences, once you've spoken to somebody and they're more aware of what you're feeling and what you're going through, it's almost then like a comfort thing that you can then call them because they know a little bit about what's going on. And just to have that, I had what's called my safe three, which was my brother, my dad, and my partner. So I knew that if things were getting too much, I knew at least one of them would answer the phone and talk to me, and they knew everything there was to know about how I was feeling. And I just saw that relation in what you said there with your best friend coming to pick you up.
Yeah, so obviously you've always got to have somebody and talk, but it's not always the easiest thing though, is it? It's like even though you do talk to somebody, and in your case, your dad, your brother, and your partner, you don't want to feel like a burden sometimes. So if you're like in a period where it's a week long of sadness or whatever else you may be feeling, you don't want to feel like a burden and be like every single day. But if you do have that safe space, you probably can talk to them every day, or at least explain how you're feeling.
100%. And one of the things we spoke about in one of the previous episodes is about creating that safe space for someone. Like looking at it on the flip side, if you noticed someone wasn't feeling 100%, it's like how do you create that safe space? And then also, if you were going to talk to someone, just saying to them, look, I've not been feeling 100%. I want to talk to you a little bit more about it, but I don't want you to give me any advice or do anything. I just want you to listen. And I think a lot of the time that's what we need.
Yeah, 100% with that. I feel like people try and give advice, and as much as it is needed in some cases, sometimes you just need somebody to listen to you because you could be going on to a big, massive rant about things, and they may pick up on things, but also answering something might give a trigger response to something what you don't want to hear in that moment. And it's more about being aware in them moments and realizing this moment's for ranting and this moment, and then a moment down the line might be more of, oh, we noticed this at this point and we feel like this could improve the way that you've been feeling. Because that's pretty much what my friends did with me. They let me be sad after my breakup, and then down the line gave me some more advice like a few weeks later.
Yeah. And that's what you needed at that time. You needed that space initially, and then maybe the little bit of help or a little bit of a push or a little bit of advice from your friends. So I want to end on a higher note, if I can. I want to talk about what your plans are for the future, where you see yourself in a few years, and yeah, just where do you see yourself in a couple of years?
It's a bit of a strange one because for the first time I don't actually have any plan. I just do. So I just think for me it's more van travels, it's more traveling, seeing things. This year I've got 2 solo trips abroad booked, so these would be my first 2 solo holidays. So it's more going and seeing things, enjoying things, experiencing new things, and yeah, keep doing what's making me happy because it's worked for the last year and a half, and I can't see anything else changing.
So you've noticed what makes you happy, and your plan is to do more of the stuff that make you happy.
Yeah, I don't feel like I should give it up, even if like the relationship situation changes or anything like that. I don't feel like giving up the things what make me happy is really that much of an option.
And are you still planning on, like, I know you do a lot of social media anyway, are you documenting this, your travels and your journey abroad? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I'll be documenting them, trying to make some cool content so it's a little bit better viewing. Yeah, just document it, see things. 'Cause I do it mainly because not everybody has the chance, or as we said, like with your anxiety and stuff, it stops a lot of people. So not everybody will go out and experience it. So from doing it and posting it, I hope that people will see that it's not actually that bad to do by yourself.
Genuinely inspiring, because going from where that anxious, like taking a couple of hours to go and walk the dog or go to the shops, to now solo traveling and then taking that one step further and going abroad. If I'm honest, that makes me anxious. The thought of that, like being so far away from like friends and family and just all that. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you, mate.
I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I've got one more question actually. I almost forgot our signature question. So we end each podcast with the same question. And the question is this: what does mental resilience mean to you?
I think mental resilience to me means overcoming all the limitations what you put on yourself. I think that's I can't
I
really
think
think of anything else.
I think you summarize that really well. So overcoming all the limitations that you put on yourself. I like
Yeah,
that.
because we do that a lot, don't we? Limitations on everything, or what you feel like you can't do until you actually go and do it. I mean, like in terms of like a fitness term, um, I never thought I'd be running 25-minute 5Ks, but I do. So
Quick.
it's the limitation where you think, oh, I'm not going to get there, and then you realise you're actually better than what you think.
Fantastic. Yeah, I completely agree. And by taking those small steps, just by starting, I think that's the hardest part, isn't it? Starting and then just sticking at it and just seeing those results.
Yeah.
Well, Kieran, I want to say a massive thank you. I think your story is really inspiring. I think there's other people going through similar things, certainly in my network. And the stuff that we've talked about today in terms of loss, whether it be grandparents or our friends, I don't think is necessarily spoken about enough in terms of suicide, especially. And so I want to thank you for having the courage to come on and be open and to answer all these questions. So thank you very much for being a guest.
Thank you for having me on, mate.